All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you all for showing up this morning to officially welcome back Kelly Kroskoff as President of Basketball Business Operations for the Indiana.
Nobody expected this. Finally, the Indiana Fever president spoke out loud during the calm portion. The woman in charge of the entire corporation. Her comments not only sparked controversy, but they also aroused the entire basketball music scene. The truth about what's truly going on within the team for the first time. Politics, pressure, locker room dynamics, music, and the conflict between building a champion and a brand came to light. And everything you think is accurate regarding Caitlin Clark's situation in Indiana is changed. Let's go back to the beginning of this story. Indiana was one of the most unmemorable teams in the whole professional basketball league prior to Caitlin Clark donning a Hoosier uniform. 6 wins in 2021, 13 triumphs in 2023 and 5 in 2022 are being mentioned. For over 10 years, they were a joke. Years. There would be no cameras, no spotlight, no buzz, no fans, and no spectators filling the seats. The WNBA scene had completely changed, regardless of the Fever. A once proud franchise became an afterthought, but no one in that front office could have planned what happened, no matter how hard they tried. Things drastically altered when the first overall pick in the 2024 WNBA draft walked into the room. Caitlin Clark changed the league as a whole in addition to lowering the temperature. Everywhere she performed, there were sold-out crowds, record-breaking TV ratings, jerseys flying off the racks, and an unprecedented media frenzy. Been seen in women's basketball since, well, music. In other words, the organization had to make a choice during that eruption. Would they try to change the course of the wave? Or take a ride? The whole story then becomes fascinating because the front office made a choice that shocked a lot of people. People needed someone at the top who understood exactly what they had, a once-in-a-generation opportunity. Athlete who was revolutionizing women's sports on her own. Kelly Kroskoff was named as. On paper, it made sense. Kroskoff had already founded their new president of business operations and basketball. The Fever had direct experience with the organization as a member of the team that won the 2012 championship. The crew excitedly introduced her, but there was something in her message from. Many people initially disregarded the worries raised by her first press conference, but they would eventually surface months later, to plague the entire organization. The warning indicators went unnoticed until it was too late, since they were concealed in plain sight. At this point, everything collapsed. Caitlin Clark's injuries in July of 2025. Due to a groin issue that has been bothering her for weeks, Clark's absence is a worry for the Fever. She has only taken part in. After 11 games this season, supporters are frustrated since the team is almost in the playoffs and there is growing pressure. Amidst all of that, the footage from Kroskoff's initial press conference mysteriously reappears on social media that same day. The speech from October 2024 contains a secret that most people are unaware of. Kroskoff said, staring straight into the cameras during the press conference, had completely ignored this is about the Indiana Fever. Yes, Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark are our core players, and we intend to continue adding to them, but I want this team. It just took that to become a national leader and an enduring brand like Apple, or whatever 5 words are similar to Apple. The fan following grew rapidly after the video became viral in a matter of hours because that wasn't a vision that the Fever front office had never seen such a reaction, so it served as a warning to a lot of people. Not only were fans furious, but they were also well organized, noisy, and difficult to ignore. This was due to what Apple actually completed. The analogy to Apple resonated differently. One visionary, Steve Jobs, laid the groundwork for their whole identity, and the empire nearly collapsed as soon as he departed. Consequently, when Clark supporters learned when the president used that same example, they saw something that appeared to be illuminating. As though Clark was already seen by the organization as an element rather than the main attraction. A fan reacted on social media to enduring brands that adopt their concepts. Steve Jobs rose to prominence as Apple's star and visionary, turning the business into a worldwide symbol. Another fan didn't hold back either. They assert that when Clark finally decides she's had enough of the Fever will admit that they squandered the best opportunity in the history of women's sports due to the front office dumpster fire. The message boards, comment sections, and comments all expressed the same fundamental feeling. You don't downplay the most important player this club has ever had, and you can't take your eyes off of her. The criticism wasn't simply noise. Someone in the group made the decision after realizing how serious the situation was getting because Kroskoff's entire. A few hours after the video went popular, the account vanished completely. Where there had been a social. Just a few days ago, there was silence in the media rather than a message or an explanation. This is where it gets even more complicated. More intricate. This is due to the fact that the players on the court, who genuinely dress beside Caitlin Clark each night, while the front staff was being attacked, they were telling a completely different and much more truthful story. Online. Lexi Hull, one of Clark's closest pals, didn't hold back when she applied for a profile in Glamour magazine. According to Hull, hardly no one had hitherto been willing to wear a Fever outfit. Make public, but everyone in the league was already aware of it due to the media coverage and the supporters. I think there has been some jealousy over the Fever since Caitlin arrived. She went one step farther and revealed that teams from across the league had been openly debating topics like, "We can't." Allowing the Fever to take over in their own locker rooms was an unsettling truth that had been growing over the course of 2 seasons. Was made clear by Hull's comments. These days, the Fever does more than just play basketball. Each time they step onto the court, they walk into a situation where other teams have singled them out because of the guys on their squad. And because of one player, not the team's performance. Sophie Cunningham went above and beyond. The player who made a name for herself as Clark's floor enforcer, who made it clear from the start that taking cheap jabs at her colleague would have consequences, had previously come forward and confirmed what everyone in the league had been speculating about. Cunningham said he heard. She stated that conversations regarding Clark in the locker room were explicit when she was still at Indiana. Phoenix. That opponents weren't just trying to win, they were trying to make a statement. The account of Clark being physically. Throughout the season, there have been numerous accounts of being targeted and getting an endless welcome to the W moment. The physical play directed against Clark was so intense that even unbiased onlookers were taken aback, and many were genuinely wondering if, by the time her groin injury interrupted her season, the officiating had sufficiently protected her. After just 13 games, an increasing number of those who were closely observing said that the answer was no. But it was just the beginning. The inside look at what it's truly like to be Caitlin. As all of this was taking on in the public glare, Clark's coworker was starting to come to light. Additionally, it was not what the critics had expected. Caitlin Clark's critics saw it as a simple story. Had pushed the hardest, that she was despised by the players, and that she caused trouble in the changing area. That no team could withstand the fractures brought on by the fame and attention. In September 2024? In a podcast, Hall of Famer Cheryl Swoops claimed that key members of the Fever were quietly showing their disinterest. It swiftly spread that they could no longer manage the situation surrounding Clark. As they entered their second season together, it became a part of the background noise that accompanied the Fever. Perhaps it was repeated each music. Unless, of course, Clark had to make an appearance as a guest on another March Madness show that was hosted. Featuring music by Subbard and Diana Taurasi. She took it head-on, didn't act defensively, and wasn't unhappy. She was really calm about it. Basically, you get used to people thinking they know what goes on behind closed doors when, in reality, they are not. Additionally, the colleagues that were present continued to encourage her in that locker room. During the 2025 playoffs, Clark's teammates flooded the floor after she healed from her wounds. After the game, they interrupted her interview and showed up for her at short notice. That nobody had anticipated. The celebration in the locker room following the Fever's Commissioner Cup victory was genuine. Laughing and genuinely happy for one another, players linked in a way that didn't read like an act. Whether Caitlin Clark's teammates liked her has never been the primary focus of the media. The Fever narrative's main concern was whether the front office, which was in control of them all, was ready to surround her with the necessary components and devote all of their attention to the project. The reason for this is that on the court, Aaliyah Music Boston and Clark had a close bond, while Lexi Hull was previously wary. New players like Sophie Cunningham were gushing over Clark after they had even played a game together. Michaela Timpson, the rookie who made the final squad, showed genuine admiration for Clark in an unattainable way. To imitate, Clark made remarks for 2 of her teammates on Instagram after the expansion draft, saying things like, "Cub I love you," for Christy Wallace and "My Aussie for life," for Chloe BBY. The affection was real. These were real ties, but connections don't win titles on their own, and that's the conflict that was the entirety of Kelly Kroskoff's comments from that October 2024. There was something about the press conference, not just the Apple soundbite, that many people missed in their rush. When Krokoff said that she wanted the Fever to be a long-lasting brand, she was talking about the long game. Sometimes it takes a generation to advance, she said, adding that Caitlin Clark was 10 years old when Indiana won its only championship in 2012. Maybe the company has been employed by someone else all along, planting the seeds for a 10-year-old somewhere who would be inspired by what the Fever was doing at the time. Whether or not you take that into consideration depends on how you see the front office's actual priorities. To be misdirection or vision, but this is undeniable. Because of a brand, the fans that went to the Fever did not appear starting in 2024. They arrived because of a player, and they drove for hours. They made payments that the WNBA had never seen before. The league had no idea how many people would watch games. Additionally, when Clark's injuries kept him from participating in ways that could be measured, ticket sales declined. TV viewership dropped after it was captured and publicly acknowledged. There was no doubting the harsh reality of what Clark intended for that team. Nevertheless, the team continued to receive messages from the organization's upper management. The organization and the brandas, even while the individual receiving all of that attention was somehow. Apart from that, one of Kroskoff's remarks during that news conference was particularly noteworthy. If you are a smart basketball player and you see how Caitlin Clark plays, you would want to play alongside her, she said. Additionally, since the Fever's recruiting success had quietly evolved into one of the WNBA's most captivating narratives, that proved to be more accurate than even she was aware of at the time. To go to Indiana, players had to take pay cuts. For veterans, the opportunity to play alongside Clark was the determining factor. Players wanted to be a part of something bigger than a normal Clark fan following, which extended beyond packed venues. WNBA season because to the environment it was creating. Despite themselves, the Fever had turned into one of the most sought-after locations in the league, due to a basketball player who enhanced everyone's surroundings. Her in crowded buildings wherever she went, not as part of a marketing plan. Let's move on to 2026 and whatever. The franchise lost 2 players in the WNBA expansion draft, Christy Wallace to Toronto, Chloe BBY to Portland. Clark herself had to endure a season that was supposed to be her breakthrough second year. Instead, she only played in 13 games throughout the regular season due to a nightmare of injuries. Despite scoring 16.5 points and 8.5 assists per game, she was selected for the All-Star game, and 5 rebounds during her games. Despite wearing civilian clothes while sitting on the sidelines, beneath it all, the Fever were building a $78 million performance facility. Still was the focus of the league, that Kroskoff called the foundation for the next generation. Although the music facility won't open until 2027, is designed to be the kind of home base that attracts elite talent for years to come. The necessary elements are in place. The question is whether those in charge of making decisions above the court are conscious of what they have and whether they want to deal with it before it's too late. The greater truth that underlies all disagreements about the Fever's headquarters, every disagreement with Clark's players, and every vehement remark about. In reality, the tension in the locker room is much simpler than all of it. This squad went from winning 5 games in a single season to games a season to becoming the most watched women's basketball team. This is a revolution rather than a reconstruction. Additionally, revolutions are the consequence of once-in-a-generation events rather than brand strategy decks. Performers who add intrigue, competition, and entertainment to everyone around them. Fans perceived the danger in the Fever president's claim to build a brand comparable to Apple. It created a storm, the same danger that killed other brands that tried to replace their hero with a logo. The athletes in that locker room know the reality better than anyone else because they have witnessed it firsthand and even played by it. Additionally, they consistently mention playing with Caitlin in every social media post and interview. Every moving sideline exchange and post shows that Clark is unique. It's an opportunity that doesn't present itself twice. It would be advantageous for the Fever to make sure that persons in control of such organization have the same feelings. The window is currently open since the existence of one thing is certain. Of the opportunity is not the question, rather, it is whether they are courageous enough to genuinely surprise everyone. The woman sitting at the top of the organization, the president of the Indiana Fever, said the silent part out loud. Additionally, her comments sparked more than simply eyebrows, they electrified the basketball world for the first time. The actual state of affairs within that franchise, including the politics, the relationships in the locker room, everything you believed in collapsed, including the pressure, the music, and the battle to build a champion and a brand. When you hear the complete tale, the truth about Caitlin Clark's situation in Indiana changes. Let's go back to the beginning of this story. One of the least remembered teams in professional sports history was Indiana basketball before Caitlin Clark ever wore a Hoosier uniform. The team won 6 games in 2021 and 5